All right, here we go. Welcome to the Brian Craig Show podcast. This is where MAGA comes to talk. My name is Brian Craig, and as always, a lot to cover. Welcome, one and all. So they had the big document dump of the Epstein files, and what did you get out of it, right? You know, what we got are a lot of photographs of Bill Clinton in swimming pools and other weird places and weird clothes with weird people with boxes over their face and everything else. If anyone has been made to look bad or be exposed in the Epstein files, which, by the way, were all released because President Trump signed a bill into law making it federal law to release the files, it incriminates Bill Clinton, the icon of the Democrat Party. And you know what it's like a lot. There's really this almost like a cult of people with the Epstein files, right? They're obsessed with the Epstein files. They've been going around and around with the Epstein files for so many years, and so many different theories and conspiracies have come out of it, and they've built up this thing that when the Epstein files are released, everything will be revealed. And as I've told you time and time again, you're not going to get anything out of these things. First off, if there was anything really good and incriminating in there, the deep state took it out to use it as blackmail material against people. That's number one. If there was ever anything in there in the first place. But the reason that they had this big push for the Epstein file release is they've had this illusion, or maybe delusion, in their mind that President Trump was finally going to be exposed. He was going to be exposed, and we're going to get... And with what came out yesterday, believe me, the first thing they did was just looking for Trump, Trump's name, a reference, anything, any word that starts with the letter T, any word that ends in P, you know, and they're just going through it. They're believe me, they've been downloading those files into AI systems to try to find anything with Trump, this big dump of documents. And you know what? There's nothing there, as we predicted. Now, of course, the conspiracy Epstein cult will continue on and say, well, you know, yeah, but if this other thing, they'll never admit that there was never anything there. And you know what it kind of reminds me of? I mean, maybe this isn't a good comparison, but when Disney bought Lucasfilm and they came out with the first Star Wars movie, there was that they released a clip from the first of the Disney Star Wars movies, and it was Han and Chewbacca on the Millennium Falcon. And grown men like myself were in tears watching that. And we just couldn't wait. And we got there. We've been waiting for this. And they're back. And Han's back. And Chewbacca's back. And Leia and Luke are back. And the Falcon's back. And then it sucked. There was nothing there. And you hate it. You don't watch it again. Well, that's kind of, in a way, what's been going on with this Epstein files cult. You know, and the truth of Trump and Epstein, they'll never let sink in. And that is, when Trump found out what Epstein was all about, he turned him into the local Palm Beach Sheriff's Department. In fact, the original investigation and arrest of Jeffrey Epstein was a direct result of President Trump turning him in Palm Beach County to the Sheriff's Department. And we later found out, quite by accident and a slip from MAGA Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House a few months back, that President Trump worked as a confidential informant for the FBI on Epstein. And he walked that back because he wasn't supposed to share that. I think that was classified information that he, just out of frustration with a reporter, dropped. So, those of you that are in the Epstein cult, go off and, do your thing and get in your Reddit boards and all that stuff and continue to talk about and dream about and fantasize about everything with the Epstein files. The thing about everything they've done to Trump, because this whole thing was about Trump. They just thought they'd get something on Trump. And when these things happen, I point them out to you. Oh, I didn't even realize I'm wearing a Star Wars t-shirt right now as I made that Star Wars reference. Well, hey, listen. It's a coincidence. I had no idea. Ahsoka Tano t-shirt I'm wearing. When these things have happened, I've explained to those of you that have listened to me for a while. By the way, welcome to the program. My name is Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. The Brian Craig Show podcast is available on all podcast platforms. Wherever you get your podcast, just go there and search for The Brian Craig Show. I'll pop up. If you want to catch the program live in video form, go to YouTube or YouTube Music, and you can look me up on YouTube, Brian Craig Show on YouTube or YouTube Music. Catch it live. If you're on hold, stand by. We'll take some calls in a bit, okay? But everything they've done with President Trump, from that, and I'll go back. I'm not going to go through a list, but from this Epstein file drop that just went out there last night, all the way back to the first things they did when he came down the escalator, with a couple of exceptions like when they shot him in Butler and such. But mostly what the Never Trumpers have been trying to do for 12 years now is come out with something that's going to turn the MAGA voters against the president. And they haven't found anything yet. And you know what? They're not going to find anything. And they get involved in these fantasies that Trump's all in these Epstein files, that Trump's this and Trump's that. They have not been able to accept a truth about Donald Trump that I'm going to share with you right now. Donald Trump is a squeaky clean Marine who lives a very moral life. And he has his whole life. And, these Never Trumpers, they just cannot accept the fact that there's a guy who's been worldwide famous for 50 years and has been a billionaire for most of his life, is a squeaky clean, got a squeaky clean life. He doesn't own some island in the Bahamas with a harem of Victoria's Secret models or something. They just can't accept the fact that a man can be rich and worldwide famous and not be a scumbag. And that's a lot of projection on their part, because that's how they are. And you got to give President Trump a lot of credit. Not many men with his fame and success and with the celebrity circles he's traveled in could live a squeaky clean life, but he does. How I don't know, but he has. They just can't get that through their head. And these Never Trumpers, if they just would have left him alone, he would be retired. He would have finished his second term a year ago almost. He'd be in retirement instead of setting up a MAGA dynasty that's going to last decades in this country. And he's changed everything. If they just would have left him alone in the next election, there may have been a Democrat president, right? And the MAGA movement wouldn't be as big as it is. But they just can't handle it, and they can't let someone who's not a part of their club or under their control through blackmail or bribery or crooked stock deals like they do these people in Congress. They just can't let someone like that run the country and be president and get away with it. They just can't accept it. A lot of it's the deep state. Everything they've done, if you look at everything they've done, all of it has backfired. By the way, when's the last time you heard about the Seditious Six, when they had that video that they were going to start a military coup? What happened to that? Everything they've done, every lie they've told, every slander they've broadcast, it's none of it's stuck. It's backfired in most instances by the fact that President Trump is always more powerful than before they went after him. It's amazing. Now, if you'd like to call in, the number is toll-free, 888-465-2631, 888-465-2631. 2631. I will get to the calls in a bit, so if you're on hold, stand by. I want to talk about what happened at Turning Point. I'm not going to play the sound bites from Turning Point, Ben Shapiro and all the rest. If we don't get a leader, a real strong leader at Turning Point USA, we're going to get, if Turning Point, this is really a bad, terrible thing, but I'm going to say it like it is. I watched what happened yesterday. I watched Ben Shapiro, pretty much his entire speech, and I saw some of the others too, okay? This AmFest that they're doing in Arizona. If this is what Turning Point USA is going to turn into, and that's yet to be seen, but you know, J.D. Vance and Susie Wiles, you know, they understand the importance of Turning Point, and if they step in and bring in a leader and take control, if this could change. But if what we're seeing this weekend at AmFest, now this is not going to be a popular thing that I'm about to say, okay? But I'm still going to say it because it has to be said. What's going on at AmFest this weekend, starting with Ben Shapiro, who launched the event basically, if that is going to be the direction that Turning Point is turning into, Turning Point USA will do more damage than good to the Republican Party and to the MAGA movement. In fact, if that, in my opinion, if that is what Turning Point USA, what's been going on this weekend, if this is what Turning Point USA is going to turn into, it's helping Democrats, not Republicans. And while I don't buy into Candace Owens' bizarro theories that she's talking about all the time with the assassination of Charlie Kirk, I do believe it was a deep state op. I stand by that. And the purpose was to do what's happening to Turning Point USA, which is to stop them from doing their great work in activism, okay? What's going on at Turning Point USA over the weekend is a disaster. You know, the MAGA movement is the first time in my life that we've had a truly strong, united Republican Party. And we have this handful of self-important, narcissistic influencers, Megyn Kelly, Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin. Who are some of the others that were there yesterday? You know, they're going there. Even Bannon, okay. And I've always been a fan and supporter of Jack Posobiec, but he did that sit down with Megyn Kelly yesterday. These are self-important, narcissistic influencers that are clout chasers that are going there to just promote themselves. I watched Megyn Kelly come in with the royal wave, looking in the crowd, ooh, well, and pointing to people. You don't even know if she's really pointing and then waving. What Turning Point USA is about, it's like CPAC, okay? These are conservative Republican pep rallies is what they are, to get behind the team. Not go there and rip every conservative in the country and then try to anoint yourself as the true conservative. And what happened there, I did agree with a lot of what Ben Shapiro said, but that was not the venue to do it. That's a place of unity. Not going up there on your high horse thinking you're the morally superior truth. Do you know why Ben Shapiro is famous? Because the Daily Wire has spent millions of dollars when they launched on online ads on Facebook and everything else to push his podcast on everyone. And he's going there anointing himself as the true moral conservative, the conservative. I do agree with a lot of what he said, but that's not the place to do it. And then most of the people that got up there yesterday of the influencer class, I did see a little bit of Ben Carson. This was not Ben Carson. He did good. But these influencers, they all went up there, and Tucker's another one, by the way, I left him out, went up there and they're defending Candace Owens. Candace Owens is accusing Turning Point of having a role in the assassin, having prior knowledge, members at Turning Point, of Charlie Kirk's assassination, and they're at Charlie Kirk's event, and they're siding with that lunatic. defending what she said? Come on. Come on. Turning Point, if this is the way it's going to go, is done. It'll become a Democrat action organization. Of course, I'm not saying they're becoming liberal, but they're helping the Democrats. They're causing division. And screw them all, these influencers. You watch that. You know, are any of them there really standing up for MAGA and our movement as we enter an election year in a couple weeks in January? Or are they just there promoting themselves? And what's this business of Tucker Carlson getting up there defending Muslims? What's that got to do with what we're doing? We have a united movement. We could make history with massive victories in the midterm elections, not just in the House and Senate. There's governors up and state legislatures that are up, and even local elections at school board levels. We could have a MAGA red wave in November if we have a massive turnout. But if you got a bunch of self-important narcissists who are going up there pretending to point and wave at people in the audience and think that there's something great about them, that are all about promoting themselves, we will lose. I'm sorry to tell you. This midterm election is ours to lose. And these conservative influencers, the big famous ones that are Turning Point yesterday, you know who they all are. That was an incomplete list that I gave. You know, they're screwing us over. They're screwing over the president, the MAGA movement, the Republican movement, and everything that Charlie Kirk built. And I'll tell you another thing. You know, all of them pretend to represent Charlie and Erica Kirk. None of them up there give a damn about Charlie Kirk or Erica Kirk. They all care about themselves. That's all those people up there care about, are themselves. And we need someone to come in and you know, Erica Kirk, you know, she's grieving. She shouldn't even be up there right now. Okay, she's got a lot of going on, and you know what it's going to be like for her and her children. And the thing about Charlie Kirk's family, you know, his parents and that side of his family, that, you know, we don't know what's going on. I mean, there's a lot of problems going on. Something like that happened. And obviously she should stay there as the CEO, but really in a figurehead form, really, as a figurehead form. We need somebody who's real. Someone who's real. Not what I saw from Megyn Kelly and all of these others, right? You know, I'm sorry to tell you, it's a disaster. They're destroying everything that President Trump and Charlie Kirk built. You know, and I'll tell you another thing too. I don't like all these people who claim to speak for Charlie Kirk. What would Charlie Kirk have wanted? Charlie Kirk would have said that. They don't know what Charlie. You know, listen. I did not always agree with Charlie Kirk. Okay. But I always praised him for what he did, and that was put together this incredible organization. You know, what Turning Point USA under Charlie Kirk really was this. It was a MAGA get out the vote operation, and Charlie Kirk flipped the young vote to Republican, which is something I never thought was possible. He flipped it to Republican. High school and college kids, he turned into conservatives. And MAGA Republicans, and he made being Republican cool. It's a MAGA get out the vote operation, not some narcissistic jerk who gets up there with fireworks around them and gives a speech and praise me, and by the way, follow me on all my platforms. That's an embarrassment. These are narcissistic children that are destroying everything. Now, so far as who could take it over, like Charlie Kirk, I don't know. I mean, my first pick is one that's not really going to work right now, and that would be J.D. Vance. We need someone who can run the day-to-day operations and run what goes on stage. And these self-inflating, self-important conservative influencers need to get the hell out of there. Out of all of them, how many of them really should have been speaking? What the hell? Tucker Carlson, not only is he up there defending Muslims for what has nothing to do with our movement, he's defending Candace Owens, who's saying that the organization that invited him to speak, that some members there had prior knowledge of Charlie's assassination in Utah. What the hell is that about? There's no leadership there. Erica Kirk's going through a lot, right? You know what happened. You know she's grieving. She's got kids. You know, their whole family is probably grieving in a very messed up situation. She's not in a position to be running that. But who could really take over? That's a tough question. It would have to be somebody like a J.D. Vance, because you've got to keep all these lunatics in check. And one of the things that Charlie did that we've learned about is he kept these narcissists in line for the most part. Now, a lot of them are still vying to become the leader and everything else. These conservative influencers, they talk about mainly two things: themselves and what people are saying about them. It's total disruption. And this was the goal of the deep state that assassinated Charlie Kirk. They've almost destroyed this Turning Point organization with what I saw yesterday there. The new media, which was credited for Trump's reelection in this last term, is so fractional right now, or factional, that there's no organization and is completely disorganized and fallen apart. It's a mess. It's a complete mess. And I don't know if Turning Point can be saved. There's been so much damage done, and J.D. Vance can't go and take it over, right? He's been anointed to be the second MAGA president after Trump, okay? And Marco Rubio would probably be his vice president and the third MAGA president, and he's too old. But it's certainly not going to be Tucker or Megyn or Tim Pool. Now, Tim Pool, I'm glad he called out Candace Owens, but now his whole show is calling out Candace Owens every day. I mean, come on. We've got a serious problem here. It's a big one. And what these self-important narcissists are doing is what those who were behind the assassination of Charlie Kirk wanted to happen: a total destruction and disorganization of our great MAGA movement. And that is what is going on here. Oh yeah, there's still, I know they said there's chapters springing up. I don't know. I don't know about that. I remember there was all this talk of adult chapters starting. What happened with that? Have you even seen a single one? And even so, in the activist movement, there's so much division going on by the likes of this sellout Marjorie Taylor Greene and others. The damage that has been done with the loss of Charlie Kirk is off the scale. It really, truly is. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. There's a lot I'm going to cover on the program. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. I'm Brian Craig. This is the Brian Craig Show podcast. I just saw this during the break, what I'm about to show you guys. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see this. I'll describe it, but they put together at AmFest this replica of the booth that Charlie was sitting in when he was assassinated. What the heck is this? And I'm watching some images of it. People go in this booth and pose and take pictures. It's a, you know, it. Why have that? What's going on? See, part of the problem that Turning Point is having is that Turning Point is a big operation. I heard the number of employees the other day, and I can't remember what it is offhand. They have a lot of employees. They have a big overhead, right? They got office buildings. They've got a lot of employees, and the Charlie Kirk Show, which is now going to just be a podcast. It won't be on the radio any longer. After starting in January, they've got a large staff with that, you know, and Charlie Kirk was the main fundraiser for, you know, Turning Point survived on three things. They had three revenue streams that I know of. Now, maybe there's some others that I don't know of, but three major revenue streams that I know of, okay? One, donations. Charlie Kirk was the guy that got the big donations because he was, you know, such a powerful force. I promise you those are drying up. Another one are these Turning Point events. They're ticketed events, and they're, you know, like this AmFest, and people pay a lot of money to go. This deal. It's you know, CPAC and Turning Point. The CPAC events that they have, the big one they have every year in Washington, and these Turning Point events are like the MAGA Republican version of Comic-Con conventions. So they have convention space where you can rent out booths. That's another one. I would imagine some of those speakers pay to be able to speak on the stage. I would not be surprised. I don't know that for a fact, but I'd be sure. But there's three sources of income that they have, right? I told you one are donations. Now that Charlie's gone, those are drying up. They are. Two are these events which are drying up after what we saw this weekend. And three is the Charlie Kirk Show, which was on the radio and podcast. And the radio show was ending. The syndicator is taking them off the radio and replacing it with Janice from CNN, and one other person are going to split that time up. I forgot who the other person is. It's not important. So the podcast will remain. So on all three fronts, Turning Point is losing money. And they've got a huge overhead and a huge payroll. And when that happens, which I think that's where they are now. And I had mentioned long before Charlie Kirk was assassinated, you may have heard me mention it, because I would listen. I didn't listen to his show every day or every week, but I did listen on occasion to his show, his radio show / podcast. And I had mentioned this more than once on the program. You know, when I listen to other shows, I hear with a different ear than you guys, because this is what I do for a living too. So I hear what people are really saying sometimes that you may miss, because I listen with a different ear. And I had mentioned many times that it seemed to me that Charlie Kirk was under extreme financial pressure because the organization basically was surviving and supported by donations. And I heard him on one or two occasions on his program talk about the difficulties in making payroll each week, you know, and he sounded overwhelmed financially because of the donations, very large overhead. And he's not the powerhouse guy, or he's not around anymore, the powerhouse guy getting the donations. So those are slowing down. And that causes problems. As an example, it causes desperation on where you let people donate money and have a voice that you may not normally allow to donate. Or they might donate, but they're not going to tell you how to run the place. And that may be what's going on with Tucker, or maybe he's planning on doing that. People buy their way into influence all the time. You'd be surprised, okay? There's a lot of that going on. I promise you. Or what I'm saying is, if it's, I don't know that this has happened yet, but people are making a move to try to buy their way into Turning Point. And and the loss of the radio show is going to be a financial hit too. And the loss of the radio show shows you already something that they can't maintain with the staff they currently have without Charlie Kirk there. Okay? The Turning Point's in big trouble, and this is not a good thing. Okay? This is not a good thing. And by the way, Candace Owens is trying to destroy Turning Point. Nick Fuentes is trying to destroy Turning Point. And Tucker Carlson and some of these narcissistic influencers are trying to take over Turning Point. So there's very little positivity going into Turning Point right now from the outside. So that's that. Now, if you're on hold, hang in there. There are some things I do want to cover. The president had a great rally last night. I want to play this one clip. He talked about Marjorie Taylor Greene. This is very interesting. Mm-hmm. No. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. You hear this. You can hear a pin drop. I've never seen that at a Trump rally before. And we got a lot of good information from the president about her. Complete fake, egomaniac. See, this is what I was talking about with these influencers at AmFest, the Turning Point event. These people that are high-profile national figures, especially those who become famous very fast, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, they become very, very self-important. And this thing about her calling Trump every day, we've heard that multiple times from President Trump. So that's what it is. Plus, she wanted the endorsement for the statewide race, either governor or Senate, and he wouldn't give it to her because she couldn't lose. I mean, she couldn't win, and she was going to lose. I misspoke. And he's not going to give his endorsement behind something that's a losing proposition. Complete narcissism. And he's right. You can go from being a liberal to a conservative. You can't do it the other way around unless you have a major head injury. And the way that and if you notice, she's doing this thing too that I saw a little bit at Turning Point. She's the true MAGA. She's the true conservative, not President Trump. Well, that's just crazy. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Dave. I'm calling from Ohio. Here we are again. Never underestimate the ability of the Republicans to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory.
Exactly.
You know, we finally got Trump. Finally got these gas prices are much better under control. They're like $2.35 up here in Ohio. You're better on the food prices.
Yep.
He's burying the Dems with these Epstein file stuff. You're coming out, you're seeing Clinton in the jacuzzi and everything else going on. And here you got these massive egos down at TPA, from Tucker Carlson to Candace to whoever else. Everybody wants a piece of the pie. They all got to get out there. And they just, you know, they need to just
go away.
I was done with Tucker. When he went off on Cruz. That was it for me with him. He had no business going after Cruz the way that he did. He could have disagreed with him without going after him. I was done with Candace when she was over there running around with Kanye West at Fashion Week. That's all you needed to know about her.
Yeah.
Go down the line. MTG running out on The View, running her mouth. And now she's got nothing to say but bad crap about Trump because she can't handle her poll numbers in Georgia or whatever that was all about. I mean, these people, we got one right after another that acting the fool, and they're all showing themselves for whoever they really are.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah.
And I'm about done with all of them. Who's left? Who's left that we can go to, that we can turn to and listen to? You got you. I do like Tim Pool.
Yeah.
You know, you got a couple out there that are pretty much stand-up guys, but all these people, ever since Charlie Kirk got shot, are all showing themselves for exactly who they are. And everybody better wake up and pay attention, because they're showing you who they are, people. They're showing you who they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we better listen. People will tell you who they are through their actions. They're telling us who they are. They're telling us what their integrity is, what their character is. That's what these people are showing us. So you better wake up before you start following line and listen. Oh, God, it's the gospel, what they're saying. You better listen to what they're really telling you and what they're questioning their motivations.
Yeah.
Because we better get back on track, because I'm telling you, we're going to end up losing the midterms. They're going to go down.
Yes.
We don't get on track. And unfortunately, you're right about Vance, bringing him in there. I don't know who else you could bring in there, and you can't bring him in there because he's the flipping VP.
Exactly.
So
I don't have I don't know of anyone else. Everything you said
there isn't anybody else. No. It's over.
Yeah.
It's over, and you can't blame Erica Kirk. What that woman has been through, and they're dragging her name through the mud for a bunch of BS. This woman has lost her husband. Every time she gets out there, you almost want to cry when she starts talking. She loved the man beyond him more than a woman can ever love her husband. And you got to listen to this crap, these people criticizing her. Are you out of your minds? People lost all kind of moral clarity on this stuff. I'm just so angry about all this stuff.
And what's the deal with having all these speakers on stage at this Turning Point event that are siding with Candace Owens, saying that Turning Point had pre-knowledge of the assassination?
She's a flipping nut job, okay? They're all anti-Semitic. We call it out for what it is. They've all bought into this. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's deep state, or I don't know what the crap's all is going on. All I know is it's a bunch of BS. That's all I know. And y'all better wake up to it, because that's what it is. For the little bit of truth that might be there to what they're saying, it's the rest of it's crap. That's how I feel about it.
Okay. Well, I think
we're headed down a road, and it ain't going to matter. It ain't going to matter.
That's right.
Because you got Schumer up there lying out his butt, about everything. They're going to try to shut this government down again in January. I'm telling you, people, we're heading down a road and it's about to crash.
That's true.
Because you got all these egos involved and everybody wants to be whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you what, I'm so frustrated with the whole thing. I just want to shut it off.
They really,
it's ridiculous.
I got to
what's
tell
going
you,
on and how they're characterizing stuff. It's ridiculous.
All future Turning Point events should be canceled.
It ought to be done until they get their house in order.
That's right.
Because all this is going to do is hurt. You're right. All it's doing is hurting us. It ought to be shut down until somebody that has, and you're not going to find another Charlie Kirk.
No.
But at least somebody in that same vein that can get everybody under control.
Mm-hmm.
Get everybody at least in the same line. Because other than that, all you're doing is hurting the cause. And it's about still saving this country. There's so much more to do. So much more to do. Yeah. This is insane. It's insane what's going on right now.
Well said.
Somebody needs to come in and try to direct the process, or where we're going. We need one clear line of thinking about where we're going, and everybody needs to come together to try to get us there.
Well, the only people that can get this back on track would be, this is what I would do. I would get together a meeting with the president, J.D. Vance, Elon Musk, and Marco Rubio and Susie Wiles, and a private meeting, and figure out what to do. And if Turning Point can't be fixed, it needs to be shut down. I agree
with that.
This is played right into the Democrats' hands.
This is chaos.
Mm-hmm.
This makes us look weak.
Indeed. Yeah.
This makes us look weak, and we shouldn't be weak right now. With all the positive news that's coming out, when Trump just came out on Wednesday night saying where we're at, what's been accomplished, and they got to deal with this crap off to the side?
Exactly.
Give me a break.
Well, listen.
Give me a break.
Listen, I think that your opinion and what you've said is the mainstream opinion of the average MAGA voter. I think we're all on this page. We've got this handful of about a dozen people that are screwing up our whole movement. That's it.
Well, they're sure as heck not helping. No. I can tell you that. They're not helping.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, listen, I appreciate the call.
That's just my 2 cents.
No, it's
all right.
No, I agree with every syllable of every word that you said. Don't you? We'll be right back. Yeah, that last call was an amazing call, wasn't it? Oh boy! If you're on hold, stand by, and what a great first call to take. If you'd like to call in and you're listening live and watching on YouTube, the number's pinned in the live chat. It's toll free 888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. President Trump, he had this press conference yesterday, and just on the fly, he dropped something which will be life-changing for millions of people in this country. Just on the fly, this popped in his mind. Well, let me just play it for you, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, so he just came up with that on the fly, and he's going to do it. And because I guess he's going to be here in Florida all week for Christmas at the Florida White House, Mar-a-Lago. And yeah, pretty cool, pretty amazing. Yeah, the weather's beautiful, probably because the president's in town. These issues that Democrats gripe about, and they're always griping about issues. In particular, health insurance cost has been the one they've been griping about a lot lately. The Democrats never plan on, and this goes for the Republican establishment before Trump came down the escalator, they never have any intention on settling any of these things, okay? What their plan is to hold them over your head forever and ever and ever, thinking that they're going to fix them if you vote for them. And President Trump actually fixes these problems. And what he'll do is he's going to call these heads of the insurance companies in, and he's going to make them an offer they can't refuse. And there's a couple of things that he's holding over their heads that would get them to move, these insurance companies, and get things down to a reasonable level, because they're just living too high on the hog. Their profit levels are too high. Over 1,000% and more, in these things. Crazy. One, and I know a lot of you know this, but a lot of people, most people don't know this. You can't buy health insurance across state lines. The health insurance companies have monopolies. You can, like I live in Florida. I can only buy health insurance from Florida insurance companies. If you live in North Dakota, you can only buy health insurance from health insurance companies in North Dakota, and it's that way in all 50 states. They have a monopoly in these states. And one thing the insurance companies have been panicked about is lifting away that and being able to buy health insurance across state lines where there's competition. So that's one of the major things that Trump will hold over them. If you don't fix things, we're going to open it up across state lines. And they want their monopolies. There's a second thing, too, is he very well may threaten to expand Medicare. Medicare, the insurance for the seniors, lower the age to 50, 55 or something like that. That's a lot of people paying a lot of premiums that they don't want to lose. But the main thing he has against the insurance companies is selling insurance across state lines. That freaks them out. And he'll do it. And he'll do it through an executive order. And that's how he'll get them to move. And he'll take care of it. And if they're smart, they'd go there this Christmas week and do it and get it settled. This is what we were talking about here on the program, about these people screwing things up for us. A lot of people that are new to politics in the 12 years since Trump has been here in the political world, came down the escalator, you don't realize how spoiled we are with President Trump. We don't just have a working president who accomplishes the things he promises to accomplish. We have a president of the United States, all right, who is taking on the things that no one thought could be taken on. What he's going to do with the insurance companies, what he's done with the prescriptions, what he's done at the border, what he's done and doing in the middle of with the drug cartels. All these are things that no one thought could anyone could do anything about it. And he takes care of all of them. But selling insurance across state lines is the biggest fear that the insurance companies have. That is how you get the insurance companies to do what you want. And what they'll do, the insurance companies donate a lot to members of Congress. So they'll be freaking out and putting the pressure. People talk about lobby groups. The insurance companies have a lobby group that has unlimited money. Don't worry about AIPAC. Worry about the insurance lobby groups are already in overdrive, putting pressure on members of Congress. But President Trump will go out there publicly. He can do it through an executive order or go public with what he's doing and what the insurance companies are doing to try to stop the buying and selling of health insurance across state lines. Health insurance, one of the reasons the rates are so high is because of the state lines issue. There is no competition. They have a monopoly in each one of the 50 states. I don't know how it works in the territories, but that's where he'll go. In fact, in the first term, he wanted to take care of that. He wanted to do that, but things happened. He couldn't. But he'll do it now because of what they're doing. You know, the insurance companies are also screwing over the entire MAGA movement by these overinflated prices. Now, it really pains me. Ron DeSantis, the betrayal that Ron DeSantis gave all of us who voted for him here in Florida, the betrayal to the president, and everything else. He's doing so many great things. Look at this. We now have a state law banning taking children to drag shows. Isn't that something? That's absolutely amazing. And you know who you can thank for this is Libs of TikTok. Any of you guys follow Libs of TikTok on X? Libs of TikTok on X somehow got that Zoom meeting from Disney where they were bragging about all the trans stuff they were getting into all the children's programming. DeSantis saw it, and he started working against the trans lunacy, and this is huge. In fact, Florida, we may be the first state to ban taking children to drag shows. And, you know, drag shows it's adult entertainment. First off, kids can't understand what's going on there. And it's about normalizing something sexual to children. It is adult entertainment. And taking kids to drag shows is inappropriate because it's adult entertainment. It's like taking them to a strip club. This guy, Ron DeSantis, he's making a move to rid Floridians of property taxes. And then a new thing he started talking about this week is lifting the tolls off of all the toll roads in the state of Florida, the Florida Turnpike and everything. You know, and I spend, you know, we have a lot of toll roads in Florida, and my family, my wife was telling me, because she keeps track of that, right? You know, and I can't handle the money. I get too aggravated. So my wife handles all the bills in our family, and my wife told me that we're spending about $1,000 a year just on tolls on the Florida Turnpike, on the toll roads. About $1,000 a year. That's a lot of money. And what they're going to do, what DeSantis wants to do, is Florida residents will no longer have to pay tolls on the toll roads. That tourists will still have to pay tolls. I don't know what, you know, everything's so computerized now. I guess there's a way to do that. I don't know how they'll do it. But that's a great idea. And he's really a great governor. He got us our open carry in the state of Florida, which we have now. The property tax thing, though, we need to have such a major turnout. The ridding us of property taxes in the state of Florida is huge. You know, we have the oldest population in the country in Florida because people retire to Florida, right? And people work their whole life to pay off their house. Or they move to Florida, they've sold their house up north, and they pay cash for their home or condo, and they still have property taxes. And I was just talking to my mother last weekend. Oh, her property taxes are coming up. My mother's retired. She's 74. Her home's paid for. And the property tax and the health insurance. But property taxes are not done at the state level, they're done at the county level. So the state can't pass a law stopping the property taxes. And by the way, it's just ending property taxes on the home that you live in, right? Not all property taxes. And it has to go on the ballot. And it's a Florida constitutional amendment. We have to get 60% of voters to vote in favor of ending the property taxes. And that's a tough barrier, right? It's like the filibuster in the Senate. And to get 60% of Floridians to vote to rid us of property tax on our homesteaded property is not an easy thing to do because, first of all, Democrats who own homes and pay a lot of money in property taxes will vote to keep property taxes because they're stupid, the Democrats. Renters are so bitter and hateful in many instances of the landlord, they're going to vote against it just to screw over their landlord. They think, well, how's that going to help me? So it's a difficult thing to do, but at least he's got the dialogue going, and hopefully that'll get the vote out for a lot of people. And lifting the toll roads, oh my goodness. Oftentimes I don't take the toll road. I'll take I-95 even though it's out of the way because there's no tolls on 95. But it's such a shame. If he would not have betrayed President Trump in that last election, he would be one of the leading he probably would be the Attorney General right now of the United States instead of Pam Bondi. Very good chance of that. Or he'd be the Attorney General if Trump were to replace Pam Bondi. But right now he's not on the list to be much of anything with President Trump because you can't trust Ron DeSantis, and that's just the way it is. We also got another big victory, and then there's one story I got a question for you after this. This Milwaukee judge that was helping the illegal escape, right? She got convicted. The sentencing we don't have yet, but they may give her a light sentence. I don't know, but if they give her a suspended sentence, I'll take it. But that was by the way, this is Milwaukee, very liberal Milwaukee. We were, I mean, how many of you thought that this judge would not get convicted? I did. I didn't think we'd get the conviction on her. I really did not. But we did. And that is a massive victory for all of us. I was shocked that we got the victory. Now, there's one story here I want to ask you guys to give me your thoughts on. But before I do that, if you'd like to support my channel and my content, become a Patreon supporter. When you become a Patreon supporter, you get access to commercial-free editions of all my podcast episodes, access to exclusive live streams that I do right here on the Patreon platform. They're live streams like I do here on YouTube, but they're only on the Patreon platform. It's a no troll zone. Only Patreon supporters have access to those live streams. You also get access to a lot of exclusive material that my wife and I both post to Patreon that we post nowhere else. And if you become a top Patreon supporter, you get your name up on the screen here on YouTube and you get a live thank you shout out on every episode. So the names you'll hear now are my top Patreon supporters. I want to thank SFjr, Christine, ETW, Chuck, Pamela, Nick, Wesley, Doris, Heather, David, Maria in Texas, Alice, LeeZep, Shawna, George, Brandon, John, Frank, Dale, Tina, David, Laura, Rob, Wes, Sue, Janice, Teresa, Irene, and Doris. These are my top Patreon supporters. If you'd like to become a Patreon supporter, there's a link in the description on whatever platform you're listening to me on, or you can go directly to patreon.com/Real Brian Craig Show. Patreon.com/Real Brian Craig Show. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey there, Brian. It's Lisa in Tennessee.
Hey, Lisa. What's up?
Hey, listen, the other day when I called and used the word pomposity, I just thought, which applies to so much of, people you've been talking about in the show, like what happened at Amfest, Marjorie and Taylor Greene, right?
Yep.
Sadly. So pomposity means speaking or acting with exaggerated self-importance, showing off dignity or importance you don't really have, often using overly formal language or jargon to sound superior. So doesn't that sound like...
Yeah, it was a real word. I never heard it before, and a lot of people contacted me. It is a real word. Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
It's
and
appropriate.
It matches so much of what we hear about, and the whole thing with the insurance stuff. I worked insurance for a while, and it's bad. Those people are raking in the dough, you know.
Yeah, and not only are they making record profits, it's only going to go up unless somebody does something about it, because they have so much influence over the Congress through donations and lobbyists. President Trump will get them on track. Most of them live in Palm Beach anyway. The heads of the companies, the reason that the reason these rich people live in Florida that run these big corporations, they all live within a couple miles of Mar-a-Lago, is because we don't have a state income tax. So all these uber rich people that run these big corporations live here, right? So if I were them, I would go over there and make a deal with President Trump real quick, because if they piss him off, he'll stick it to him.
That's not going to be pretty. That's not going to be pretty. Well, anyway, you have a great day.
Well, thank you. You have a great day too. Now this story here, a little disappointing. Elise Stefanik. I met her at Mar-a-Lago, and she was walking in front of me at Mar-a-Lago, and I really almost didn't recognize her. She's like really short, and she's so tough. I love Elise Stefanik. She announced two things last night. She's dropping out of the New York governor's race, and she's not running for re-election in the House. I remember President Trump was going to make her the UN ambassador, and she has a thing here. She talks about family. That's when people, it's different with a woman. If a man is dropping out of a race or not running for re-election, and he says it's because of family, that means he's cheating on his wife and he got busted. With a woman, I don't know, but that's a big loss for us. I thought she was ahead in the polls in New York and was sure to win the primary, and she was polling higher than Governor Hochul in New York, and she's not running for her seat in Congress. I mean, this is a big disappointment. And she's young, so when someone is young and they're at that level, I got to think scandal. I mean, there's either scandal or someone sick. If it wasn't, if she were a man, I would just say scandal, because if there was someone sick in the family or even them, they'd stay in, okay? But a woman's a little different. That's one that's a sad loss. She is so good. She is a bulldog, and she would have been a great governor in New York to take on this Mamdani. But I don't buy this family thing unless it comes out that somebody's sick. But even then, I mean, come on. Family, you got. Oh no! When they mention family, that's to me that means scandal, right? Do you guys agree with that? But Stefanik will definitely be lost. If you're new to my program, make sure that you follow and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. The Brian Craig Show podcast is available wherever you get podcast. Okay, and if you want to catch the podcast live in video form, that's on YouTube. So whether it's you want to catch the video form of the podcast live on YouTube when I'm taking live calls, or listen to the audio version on all podcast platforms, just search for The Brian Craig Show, and I'll pop right up. But if any of you have any ideas on what's going on with Stefanik, let me know. That's a big loss for us in our movement. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, I'm Dean, calling from Orlando. Next door neighbor, basically.
Okay, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Can you pick up the phone off the speaker? Because there's a lot of echo. It sounds like a
sorry.
Sounds like a computer phone you're on. That's okay. We'll wait.
All right. How's that? Is that better?
Yes. All right. What's on your mind? Orlando, Florida.
Yeah, Orlando, Florida. So, I'm not going to do anything like try to drop something as a commercial, but there is solutions out there for the healthcare stuff. That I was listening to you this morning. I've listened to you forever. I've been a fan for About 6 years since I've been here in Florida. So, but there are solutions that President Trump does support right now for healthcare in 48 of the 50 states. There's 2 states that won't allow a certain company to do business. But I definitely wanted to see, like, I don't know any other way to get a hold of you. So,
well, you're here now. You're on the air. So, what's on your mind?
Well, how do you? It's an interesting way to say that I've been working with a certain company that allows me to help people cut their healthcare costs by 50%. Generally, sometimes 70%.
Is that the company that I hear about, that the fund that advertises a lot on radio stations, the Christian fund?
No, it's not that. It's something that's been around a bit longer than that, but it has been operating. It's supported by doctors. Doctors get paid in 15 days.
Oh, okay.
Which is almost incredible to hear about in the industry.
So it's something that if you have it and you went to a doctor, you could find a doctor near you that took it.
Yeah, that's the interesting part about it, is that there is no limitation on the doctor that you can go to. There is no in or out of network, right? That's the beautiful part about what I do works. What I've been working with and selling.
How much is it a month? Like if I got it at my age, what would it cost me a month at 54 years old?
At 54, it would be just for you. There's two prices. There's household and there's individual.
No, just
for
me.
You would be at $257.
Oh my goodness, that's what I was paying for health insurance when I had it, like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, send me an email. If you go to my website, briancraigshow.com, there's an email link there. I'm the only one who gets those emails, briancraigshow.com. So if you email me there, I'll get your email, and I'm interested in that. Send, but put in the subject line that you called me from Orlando, so it'll stand out in the 300 emails I'll get now today.
Yes, sir. Appreciate that.
All right, you take care. All right, I'll be in touch.
Thanks.
Yeah. Again, if you're new, make sure you follow and subscribe wherever you are listening. My name's Brian Craig. This is where MAGA